Welcome to the Coming Clean podcast with your host, Peter O. Estevez.
Hit a dash in my position, you will never last. Real talk, I had to get it from the mall. Real talk, now I'm vibing with a bankroll. Cash.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Coming Clean podcast. Today we have an incredible guest, Meghan Gallagher. Meghan is 24 years old. She's on a TEDx talk, best-selling author, AfterBuzz TV host, a writer, and an advocate for teens' anxiety. Hello, Meghan. How are you?
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Peter, for having me. I'm so excited.
I am excited to have you. You are a young lady that has been out there making a name for yourself, has been very, very active. And you talked about a topic that is very dear to my heart. And what's interesting is that I have learned more about anxiety in the last few days than I did while my son was suffering right before my own very eyes. You know? And I have listened to a lot of your interviews. I have listened to a lot of the podcast interviews that you had, as well as many of the other TV shows. I have listened to your TEDx talk, and I have learned a lot about the issue. And you know what's interesting, Meghan, is that I saw a lot of those behaviors in my son that you described throughout your process.
Yes.
And I could never pinpoint them. But what really struck me was that when you actually were in the midst of your issue as a young freshman, 14 years old, and you talked to your parents about it, your father say, well, you know, that's something that is in the genes, it's in the family genes, and it's something that I have dealt with, and you're going to be okay.
Yes.
And you know, I've been sober for 19 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you
That's
so much.
incredible.
And the reason I bring that up is because for a long time, I thought that I was the problem and not that I had a problem. And
Wow.
And I think that happens to many of us when we go through, when we have either mental health issues, when we have addictions, when we have conditions, and they go undiagnosed, or the family does not understand what's going on, and how that can escalate into something else. So tell us a little bit about your journey, and then we're going to talk about where you're at today.
Yes. So my journey, I have had, lived with anxiousness my whole entire life, I would say. And it really started as young as 3 years old, well before I could remember it. I just had so many moments, and now I can watch it in old family home movies and really see, but my parents always knew, Meghan is the anxious child. She's more sensitive. I was crying a lot and kind of having not tantrums, but just meltdowns. And I wanted just to be with my mom. And as I got older, my anxiety, it manifested itself in different ways. And so for me, my anxiety, it's called anticipatory anxiety. And it runs in my family. Like you said, I inherited just this naturally, wanting to overthink mind. And basically, anticipatory anxiety, my mind wants to anticipate something, something hasn't happened. And my mind naturally wants to start going down the rabbit hole of what if, and all of these worst case scenario thoughts, and like 1 in a million chances. And so for me, that kind of showed up as before 5th grade camp, before sleepovers, before school field trips. I would start crying and freaking out, and I'm like, I can't do it. The bus is going to crash. The plane is going to crash. And my parents would say, Meghan, we love you, but you have to go. You need to live your life. It's going to be okay. You're not going to get sick or die or any of these worst case things. And for me, my anxiety, and I just remember, I remember being so young and just not I just had, I couldn't even like describe what I was feeling. I just remember constantly feeling overwhelmed and just constantly, like, to me, that was my normal. So when I did go into therapy at 15 or 14, I just was like, wait, this isn't normal to constantly have a pit in your stomach and to be sweaty and hot and, you know, to just feel like you're going to basically explode into confetti all the time. Like, it's not normal. Not everyone feels that way. And so for me, that was a huge therapy, really allowed me to go like unlayering and dig a little deeper as to why I think this way and where it stemmed from, and you know, what kind of thoughts are going to make me feel good, and the fact that it's actually good not to have a pit in your stomach. Because for me, that was my, you know, every single day. I didn't really have anxiety in middle school, but high school, my anxiety, my freshman year, it blew up. You know, it was just too much. And I remember just feeling so all over the place, and my grades were kind of, you know, dropping, and my eating habits were really abnormal. Like, you know, I had so many kind of rules I made up in my head. I would say, you know, I can't eat before school because what if I throw up in front of other people, or something like a negative what if. And so I wouldn't eat at all during school. So I would get home and kind of just like, you know, binge eat, and my weight fluctuated. And it wasn't until mid freshman year of high school, so I was 14, and I just thought to myself, you know what? I need help. I can't really function. And this like thing that I still didn't know what it was. I would call these panic attacks, I called them episodes, because I would be sitting in my English class and I would just black out and forget things, but I would, you know, get really hot, and the panic attack symptoms would come on. And then I would just, you know, ask my teacher, can I go to the bathroom? And I would freak out, and then usually call my mom or text her from the bathroom stall, like, Mom, it happened again, this stomach ache. I think I'm sick. I think I have the flu. Can I come home from school? Because I think I need to like be at home. I think I'm really sick, like sick. And she's like, Megan, no, it's okay. Like, you're fine. You just take some deep breaths. I'll talk with you on the phone for a little bit. I'll talk you down, but you're going to stay at school. So for me, once I realized I needed help, and I wanted to feel better, you know, I wanted help. And so I sat my parents down, laid it all out there, and then they put me in therapy literally 2 weeks later. And I had my first cognitive behavioral normal talk therapy. And that just changed my life. Just telling someone literally exactly how I felt, and then having a therapist tell me, you know, it, like, what you're feeling, it has a name. I was like, wait, this is called something. It's not just, you know, Megan's personality. It's not just, I don't know. It felt very good to have someone just see me and understand me, and to not feel judged.
You know, Megan, as you were describing your episodes, for lack of a better word,
Yes.
As you were describing, it was almost like you were describing my son Alec.
Oh.
And you know, you said something a minute ago. Well, you said something in an interview before, that having a panic attack is a personal moment. It's something that you know, you cannot display that publicly, because you're dealing with the internal feeling, but at the same time you're dealing with your surroundings, and you don't want to be seen being odd or being different, because you already feel different. You already feel odd. You already feel like you're not part of, right? You feel apart from.
Right.
And as you were describing all of that, what struck me the most is two things. Your parents knew what that was.
Yes.
Anticipatory anxiety, and your father had suffered from it. How is it that somebody can identify that in a child, where, you know, I didn't know my son was suffering from that. I knew that his behavior was not normal. I knew that he would tell me I want to go to a sleepover, and the minute I dropped him off, 30 minutes later he was calling me. He wanted me to pick him up.
Yeah.
Okay? I knew he was excited about going to play football, and the minute we were on his way to practice, he started having this attacks and didn't want to go and would start bawling, crying. And there's a lot of times that, me being somewhat old school, look, you got to do it because you signed up for it and it's how do we react as parents, and how do we begin to see those signs? Us that do not understand it, a parent that does not understand it.
Right. So I think a really great, helpful thing is, one, noticing if your child's personality has shifted, and just noticing, usually anxiety and depression and body image issues, usually it comes up during puberty because, that's the time where your hormones are shifting, you're psychologically, mentally, your brain is growing and maturing. So things just get stirred up. But I would also just notice, does your child, maybe they used to hang out with this friend group and, they were like an A+ student and they were a part, like they wanted, to be outgoing. Like they put themselves, it wasn't the parents forcing them, but they were like, oh my gosh, no, I want to be in the cheerleading. Like I want to be the class president and be a part of all these clubs. And they loved, like they were very extrovert. And then, slowly you start noticing they ditch school a lot, or they're hanging out with a different group of people, or just maybe not a good influence. And you also notice, they spend a lot of time scrolling on their phone. They're up till 2 a.m. They're not getting a lot of sleep. Their grades are slipping. It's just really important just to notice, my child 5 months ago was this, and then what's the bridge? How did they get from here to here? Because something had to happen. So either it was an external change. So maybe you moved houses, they moved schools, they changed friend groups, or just psychologically, maybe they started getting low self-esteem, or they stopped believing in themselves, or someone told them something, made a negative comment. So, it's just really important just to be a present parent and just to actually take notice and make sure you're watching, are they drinking a lot of caffeine or Red Bulls, and what kind of foods are they eating? Everything plays into their mental well-being. Or, they could just be overwhelmed. They could be totally burned out and just, they feel like they signed up for too much, or they're worried about college and grades and expectations and, looking good in this dress for prom. And there's just so many things that happen when you're a teenager, and it's a lot of stuff going on. So I think it's important to, just be kind and just be understanding. But also, if you are a parent, it's really important just to be proactive. If you feel like there's a problem, or, you think they could be drinking or doing drugs or something where it's just, it's going to lead them down a dark path, it's good to step in and to take action.
And, you describe a lot of the symptoms that I personally saw my son experiencing. And that was, change of schools, parents divorce, he gained weight, the group of friends changed, everything changed, his self-esteem went low.
Yes.
I mean, his body changed, his physique changed, everything changed about him. Now you, when I see you today, you don't display any of those symptoms. Mm-hmm. You are upbeat, you're excited, you're happy, you're the opposite of what anyone would think that had gone through that. Yeah. So how did you grow and mature? What was your process of who Meghan is today? Because at 14 and at 14 you sat down with your parents. Mm-hmm. And how did you know that you needed to sit down with your parents and say, I need help? How did you come to that level of maturity? Mm-hmm. And how did that journey take place? Because I want to touch on both on the parent, and I want the parent that is maybe listening to this episode with their teenage son or daughter to relate to this. So take us to both journeys there.
So one, to answer your question, Peter. So one, I feel lucky that for me, when I was, even though I was struggling with anxiety, I mean, you're right. A lot of people looking, on the outside would be like, you have anxiety? Like you're so, put together and you're very organized and you're on time and, you have your life together. Like you eat healthy, it's not really, you would think that. And so I feel like for me, one, I have to thank my family because I grew up thankfully, like my parents are still together. They've been together for almost 30 years. I feel very grateful. And, I just noticed, I grew up in a really goofy, silly family. I grew up like my family would have dance parties every night in the kitchen. And so to me, I just kept on noticing, and my dad especially has such a sense of humor. So to me, I noticed oh my gosh, wait, if I watch a funny movie or if I laugh or if I dance around my room, I notice that my anxiety melts away. And I notice every time, like, wow, I just ran around my backyard with my dog and I feel so much better. And so for me, I put the 2 and 2 together very early of exercise, being active, expressing myself, dancing, making other people laugh, being in the school plays. Those make me feel better. And so my brain made that positive, reinforcement connection. So, and I feel like for me, when at 14, I knew it was time to ask for help because I felt like I couldn't breathe every day. And I felt like I would wake up in the morning really excited for high school and just get to first period. And then I could feel it. My mind would start thinking, wait, it's 9:30 a.m. And yesterday at 9:30 a.m., I felt this way. I had a stomach ache. I had a pit in my stomach. I felt anxious. I felt sick. So today I have to feel that same way. My brain started this kind of like a clockwork connection. And so it was exhausting. It's exhausting to try to have to sit in class and, do well on this test. Meanwhile, I was arguing with myself and trying to calm myself down all the time. So I felt like I couldn't really absorb the information being taught to me. And I felt like I was struggling with my grades. And I would come home from high school after a day. I would usually have 15 to 20 panic attacks a day. And this is, this is, like full body panic attacks where it would last 1 to 5 minutes and I would have to excuse myself to go to the bathroom. So it was like a whole shebang. It was a whole procedure. And I just remember I would get home from high school and I would just feel exhausted. Like I would, just lie on my couch in my living room and I would just think, tomorrow, it was like, getting ready for war. Like it was gearing up for battle. And I was like, I have to do this again tomorrow. Oh gosh. And I kind of just got into this state where I was like, victim, why me? And I kind of accepted that this was my reality of I have to get anxious and, it's just the way my life is. These were the cards I was dealt. And so I didn't really like that. I didn't really want my life to be, revolving around anxiety. So I just knew I could trust my parents. I've always been very close to them. And, I just decided one day I have to tell someone because I wasn't talking to my friends about it at school. I was too embarrassed to ask for help because I felt like if I asked for help, and that was me showing that I'm weak and that I can't, it's bad to show weakness and a vulnerability. So I, one night after dinner, just went to my parents' room and was like, can I talk to you guys for a second? And they're like, sure. And then, so I just, talked to them. I started crying and bawling my eyes out and I laid it all out and they looked at each other. And my mom said, Ted, that's my dad's name. She's like, Ted, you can take it from here because he has it and it runs on his side of the family. So he's like, Meghan, let's go on a little nature walk down the pathway. So we went on a walk and he just explained to me, what it is and how he felt when he was my age. And then about 2 weeks later, I had my first therapy session, and it literally changed my life. I just will never forget it. And I mean, ever since then, I've been on this, just fascinated by the mind and how everything works.
So if I understand from some of the things that you had said, happiness is a muscle.
Yes.
So we have to work at it. Mm-hmm. So to some of us, it becomes more natural than to others. But even as it does come naturally, we still have to continuously be doing that. And it is enhanced by exercise.
Yes.
By body movement.
Mm-hmm.
By positive thinking. And obviously by a healthy environment. So let's talk to that young boy, young girl that does not have the home environment that you do.
Yes.
Okay. That is not fortunate enough where his or her parents are educated. They don't have the resources. And they don't know what they're going through. But I think that this is an issue that is more common that is talked about, right? Mm-hmm. So let's help them identify the symptoms, one, okay? Maybe 2-3 symptoms that you can see, nail biting, whatever you think those
yes.
are. And how to get help and where to get that help.
Amazing. So I would say 1 to 2 symptoms. I would say 1 is just noticing how they speak about themselves and how they speak about other people, because anxiety, it's really just negative thinking and assuming and anticipating. So just noticing, your inner dialogue, and noticing if you're a parent, how does your child or teenager speak? Do they speak kindly towards other people or about other people? And do they speak kindly about themselves? Like, you know what? Today's going to be the best day ever. I love myself. I love my body. Because anxiety, when it starts happening, it just kind of dampers your self-esteem. And a good indicator of how someone's feeling on the inside is, how they're outside. How are they speaking? How are they acting? Are they bullying other people? Because, like the old quote always says, it's like how other people treat you. If someone is bullying someone else, it says more about the bully rather than the person.
Hurt people hurt people.
Exactly. Hurt people hurt other people.
Mm-hmm.
Happy people want to lift up other people because they genuinely from the inside out. So it's just very powerful. I think also it is, the nail biting. I used to do that. And I also I think a lot of people can pick their hair or pull their hair, or like, there's so many little things it's a form of release, really. It's not self-harm, but to bite your nails, it's a distraction. It's a coping mechanism, but it also, it gives you like a feeling of pain or that release. And I also think if you like are scrolling on your phone till 1 a.m. and you just, anytime you get anxious, you start scrolling mindlessly and you're like, oh, da, 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 and you're not, you're not checking emails or doing anything productive, but you're just literally scrolling. That's really important to be mindful of. Also, eating habits, because I think we can deal with our feelings in different ways. So if you know that you are an emotional eater and anytime you feel anxious or sad, you just go to the kitchen and you just start eating, that can be a very obvious sign of anxiety. Also, make a list. This is so powerful. Literally make a list of every single thought that you think in 1 hour or 1 day. Because when you write down your thoughts on paper, you're like, what? Like, you become so much more aware of actually what you're thinking about and how because every single thought that we think it has an emotional response. There's an aftershock. You know, there's the birth and the pregnancy, there's the thought and the feeling. The feeling comes after the thought. So if your thoughts are negative, assuming, repetitive, dwelling, you're in the past, you're ruminating, you're anticipating about the future, you're assuming something hasn't happened yet, or you're focusing on things out of your control, it's all going to make you feel one way or the other. So I think it's very important to be mindful of the thought comes with the feeling. You know, it's a 2-for-1 package deal, you know, at the grocery store when you can get like a shampoo and conditioner for the price of one bottle of shampoo. You know, your thought comes with a feeling. So if you think, oh gosh, what if those people do that again? And what if my sibling, you know, says that thing that always makes me feel horrible? And what if, like, that's all going to make you feel a pit in your stomach, sweaty palms. You're going to feel stuck and like yucky and gross because all of those thoughts, once again, they're negative. They're out of your control because they involve other people and we can't control other people. And also they're, you know, it's a what if. You don't know what's going to happen. You're assuming something in the future that hasn't happened yet. And I also think people can get help just, you know, thankfully, I think we live in a society where there are so many free hotlines and forums and blogs where, you know, you can just text a therapist. There's a lot of, if you Google, you know, free therapy chat, or you can just start texting or messaging therapists, and it's really cheap. And there's literally apps for phones where you can like talk to a therapist, and it's, you know, $6 a month, and it's cheap, and you can get advice. I think also just Google, you know, guided meditations for anxiety. Don't Google your symptoms, because that's a whole other story.
That's going to cost a whole new layer of anxiety.
I know. If you feel like you are having anxiety, do not Google it, because trust me, WebMD or the internet will tell you you're going to die in one day, because that's just what the internet does. But, you know, try going on YouTube and searching, am I having a panic attack, or something where it's actually helpful and someone's, you know, breaking it down and giving advice. But there's just so many ways to get help. And I think honestly, just reaching out, if there's someone in your life where you feel like you can talk to them or text them or send a letter, or you trust someone, whether that's a roommate, a friend, a cousin, a school counselor, a nurse, your parents, your uncle, your aunt, your sibling, just someone in your life where you feel like you can trust, a coworker, a partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend. It's really important just to open up and to know that you aren't alone. And just so many people, and you know, there's so many successful people out there in the world who struggle with anxiety. There's pro NBA basketball players and, you know, billionaires who have to work on their thoughts every single day, and it's okay. And right, like, I'm in the same boat, you know, I struggle with anxious thoughts and negative thoughts, and I have to pull it back in and say, Megan, it's all a choice. You're the one creating all of these thoughts. So take a breath and remember who's in control.
You know what I love about everything that you said, Megan? Everything is about action, and not once have you mentioned medication.
Yeah.
Okay? Not once have you said, go see a psychiatrist, go get medicated. Not once have you said that. And I think that's very important, because I think the old school thinking, or something that we're trying to break away from, we have realized how powerful our mind is.
Yes.
And the reality is that every single one of us is in control of our thoughts and is in control of our actions.
Yep.
But we have been conditioned for a long time to believe that we needed to depend on external circumstances or things in order to make ourselves feel better, when in reality, the healing is within ourselves. Okay? So tell me, before I go on some more on that, have you ever been medicated? And if not, why not?
So I personally have never taken medication. That has just been a personal choice for me. And thankfully, in my unique experience circumstances, I don't feel that my anxiety was, I mean, it was severe and it affected my life and it was crippling at times, but I feel very lucky because it just never got to that point where I felt like I needed a daily pill. And also just my own parents, and this is totally just my opinion. Everyone do what makes you feel your best. And if you need medication in order to live, your full life, more power to you. But for me, my parents, 14 is very young, and they just felt, Meghan, your brain is still developing and you're so young, and we just want you to go into therapy first. We want you to learn all of the tools and, learn how to calm yourself down, learn how to, just feel it out. And okay, am I feeling anxious? Just doing that. We want you to know that by yourself. And then when you're an adult and your brain is done developing, you can choose if you want to be on medication or not.
Now, talk to us about the camp that you went on. You went on a camp.
Rustic Pathways.
So tell us about that journey and tell us what happened and how that changed you as a person.
Yes. So Rustic Pathways was honestly one of the best experiences of my life. And I think it says a lot because I still now, as an adult at 24, I still think about it and have such fond memories. When I was 14, so after I started seeing a therapist, about 5 months into it, I felt really confident and I felt like I had gained all of these tips and tools, and I felt very just, I'm in a good place and I feel more comfortable, and I kind of want to, go on a trip, or I just felt like I wanted to just try something new, with all of this like new knowledge and wisdom. I was like, I kind of want to put it to the test. So
this was right at the beginning where you started managing your episodes, right?
Yes, this is in the beginning when I started actually, listening to the therapist's advice and started implementing it into my real life. So I started exercising every single day, even if it was just for 30 minutes. I started having a morning and a nighttime routine where I would journal and turn off the electronics, have a cup of tea or stretch or meditate or read a book. And then Rustic Pathways happened. And my first trip was to New Orleans to rebuild homes that had been destroyed by Hurricane Katrina. And I remember, I was almost 15 and I, was talking with my mom and I was like, I want to sign up for something. And I just don't know what it is. So we literally Googled teenager adventure program. Like, we didn't know what to search for. So we were like, teen adventure, teen travel program. And we found Rustic Pathways, and a few of my cousins actually had gone on some trips too. So we were like, oh, maybe this would be a good fit for me. And so we looked up, they had trips ranging from, you could do photography or community service, or you could go, just to Australia to go scuba dive. And so I really loved the New Orleans, the rebuilding after Hurricane Katrina one. And I felt comfortable because, it was far away, but it was still in the United States. So I didn't have to get extra anxious and be like, if I have a panic attack, my mom can't help me if I'm across the country. Like, how is she going to get to me? So it was very, very powerful. And so we signed up for it. It was a 3-week program, and it was in summertime. So once freshman year was over and sophomore year, the summer gap in between, I would go on it. And so I was super excited at first. I was like, I got this, everything is okay, I can do this. And then as the days got closer, I really, you know, I started just the reality started sinking in, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. This, you know, this is too much. What was I thinking? Who am I? I'm not this brave person. And my mom constantly had to, Meghan, like pull me off the ledge and was like, Meghan, you're fine. Take a break. You're fine. You're fine. Just breathe. And I vividly remember, you know, I was like, okay, can I really do this? And then I remember once Rustic Pathways, they sent the list of all the packing itinerary. I just lost it. I was like, this is too real. I can't do this. And then I remember the night before, my family had a going away dinner for me, and I was literally biting my nails like freaking corn on the cob. You know, I was just like, I was so nervous and I couldn't hold it in, and I just was fidgety and really anxious. And my parents were like, Meghan, what's wrong? You know, like, you're not eating your dinner, you're kind of pushing the food around the plate and you're just staring at the ground. Like, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm fine. You know, I'm just thinking about how much fun I'm going to have. And then the next day, super early in the morning, my mom woke me up for a flight, and she just was like, Meghan, are you so excited? You're going on your trip today. And then I looked at her and I just started bawling because, you know, it was just too real. And I was like, I can't do this. What? I can't get on a plane by myself. I'm, you know, 15 and I just go across the country. And so I had a full-blown panic attack, freaked out. My parents came in the room, and, you know, my dad looked at me and was like, oh, my dad's more of a softie. So he's like, my daughter's crying. Let her stay home. You know, I can't do this. And then my mom was like, okay, leave the room, husband. And then she's like, Meghan, you need to go. You need to do this. Trust me. She literally was like, Meghan, look me in the eyes. You're going to be fine. Just trust me. Like, everything is going to be okay. She kept on saying, as your mother, I would never sign you up for something where I knew you could fail. And it was so crazy because she just kept on saying, as your mom, I would never put you in a place where you could get hurt, or she's like, I would never do that to you. So trust me. And she kept on saying also, you know, this is the anxiety talking, you know, it's not the real Meghan. She knew that, like, I had, you know, the happy Meghan and then like the, like freaking out Meghan. And she's like, this isn't the real you. So basically pack up your bags, get in my car because we're going. I'm going to force you to go. She's like, you'll thank me one day. You will thank me when you're older. I promise you. And so, you know, she stood her ground and she did not budge. And I think that can be very helpful when you have someone in your life who just knows you well enough to know when it's the anxiety talking versus the real you that's confident and wants to live life to the fullest.
So let me ask you a question. Your father exhibiting the same symptoms of actually living with the same symptoms.
Yes.
Why is he not able to understand you better than your mother? I'm just trying to make.
Yes. Well, so for me, my dad, you know, he has two daughters, so he's a girl's dad. So yeah. I don't have any brothers, so he's very, you know, he's a tough guy. He's hardworking, but when it comes to me or my sister being upset, he gets, you know, it's hard for him. So, you know, just seeing me so upset, and I was like, I can't go. I was like a dog. You're trying to take a dog to get a wash, to take a bath, and the dog is like freaking out. That's what I was like. And so my dad was like, she needs to stay home. I can't see her like this. And, you know, yeah. She's so freaking out. But my mom she's better to handle me in situations where, you know, I mean, I don't do this anymore as an adult, but when I was younger, she just literally was like an anchor, and she was like, I'm not gonna budge. So, you know, you can't fool me. Like, you can't, you know. And she also, she was home more when I was younger. You know, she was home and when I was growing up, and I would call her all the time from high school. And she knows, like, she grew up, my dad was around too, but he was like working, so she was home more.
Let me ask you a question, Meghan. What part of that is a little bit of manipulation?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that you could get away, go home when you're not doing.
Oh, fully. Yeah.
Yeah. So what part of that, what percentage of that was, or that would almost at some point will cripple you, right? Into believing that, well, you know, it works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can develop that mindset to get away from doing things that you don't want to do. And eventually in life, it's going to cripple you to where you begin to believe that that is a true condition, right?
Yes. So I would say, it's just powerful to just realize, like what you said, anxiety is a liar. It can really make you feel like your world is ending and that you're going to die, or just some awful worst case scenario thing is going to happen. And it's just really powerful to remember you aren't your thoughts. They are just thoughts, and we don't have to associate ourselves with them or be defined by them. And also, I think it's just important to, as a parent too, to realize, maybe your child does have anxiety if they constantly are more sensitive, maybe, or they're throwing more tantrums or trying to get attention, or I don't know. I think it's just important to notice, is this just a personality, or is it, is this just Meghan being Meghan, or is it something else? Is it like is it a mental illness?
Yeah. Meghan, so you ended up going to the camp. You have an incredible time. You built a house for Miss Rose.
Yes.
And you come back home.
Mm-hmm.
And when did your journey to healing, to becoming who you are today, when did you notice the difference? When did you feel like you were out of the woods? Or do you feel like you're out of the woods?
So I definitely feel like I'm out of the woods. So I felt, those trips. So I did New Orleans first, and then and then the next summer I went to Fiji, which was even further. But it was just so powerful because I really learned just more about myself. And I was like, wow, I can really push myself far if I really want to, and also, I had such a perspective shift, because in New Orleans, I was rebuilding homes that had been destroyed by Hurricane Katrina. And I was seeing, just this devastation happen. And I met a ton of people in that community, and they were so friendly, and they were so nice, and so they were the happiest people. Same with Fiji. And it really opened my eyes to think, not to be mean. I wasn't being mean to myself and thinking like, Meghan, you have it so good. I was just thinking, wow, I mean, these people are so happy and so friendly and so warm and welcoming. And I mean, these people, they've never seen, in Fiji, the island that I lived on, they had never seen a digital camera before. And it was all these things that I think we, living in the United States or anything, we take for granted so easily because we're so used to it. And I just was like, these people are so happy, and they have literally, in my opinion, I was like, these people have barely anything. And, they have it just shifted my perspective.
Wow. Now, that touched a chord, because you live in California. Mm-hmm. You obviously would be considered privileged.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay. Lived in a great community, great family, great upbringing. Why is it, in your opinion, that mental health, depression, anxiety, and all the things that seem to permeate in our society, particularly in the United States, where we do have it so well?
Yes.
why is it that they're more prevalent here than they are in other parts of the world?
Like why anxiety, or why people are happier?
Anxiety, mental illness, depression. Why? I mean, you said you went to Fiji in an island where they had never seen a digital camera. You were in New Orleans in the middle of devastation. I mean, where literally neighborhoods were graveyards for houses, and they had been decimated by Katrina. Yet people were there working and showing up and putting their best. Why is it that in your community, at 14 years old, you know, I remember telling my son when he was going through his issues, I said, you had two jobs, just very simple: to be a kid and to go to school. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to worry about anything else. Just be happy. Just be a kid. I want you to be a kid. Okay? And the average American has that privilege. We have the privilege to just be a kid.
You're right.
And just go to school. So why is it that our generation, our society is plagued with so many kids that are worried about things that are not going to happen to them, but they end up manifesting many of those things just because of their outlook in life?
Yes, that's a really great point. I think mental illness and everything, I think it's a mixture. It can be hereditary. It can be induced stem from a traumatic event you had as a childhood, or just in your life from a near-death experience or from an accident. But I also think that, it's not a coincidence that anxiety and mental health levels are, they're so much lower in the places like I went to, like Fiji, and, it's just, I think when we live in such a fast-paced, just competitive, egotistical, what's next, what's the next best thing, and very materialistic world, I think that actually makes people more anxious, because I think people are more worried about what other people think about them. I think they're more worried about, keeping up with the trends and kind of keeping up with the Joneses, and, we have to stay relevant on social media and all these things. And I think, it's just, there's just so much stuff. And the United States, I mean, there's just, the commercials on TV, the billboards, especially places like LA, it's just so, the advertising, the media world. And I think that can make people feel like they aren't good enough. And that when they do have this, when they get this latest, greatest product, then they'll feel enough and fulfilled and whole and beautiful. But then they get that product and they're like, wait, but I don't feel that way. And to me, that's the race to nowhere. When you keep on thinking, I also call it horizon living, where you keep on thinking, okay, when it's Friday, I'll be happier. When I lose 10 pounds, I'll be happier. When it's summertime, when I have a boyfriend, but you have to realize happiness is an active choice. It's like flipping on a light switch. It's a choice.
Yeah, be happy now and then pursue whatever you want.
Exactly. You can be happy now, and it's good to train your mind to know, okay, I'm going to choose to be grateful. And it is a choice. We can't live our lives waiting for other people to give us the green light and, the okay to go and the permission, or we can't live our life thinking, once I have kids, I'll be happier, or once, it's just, you have to feel it and give yourself permission first.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you have, in your words, you have created a space that you so desperately needed when you were a teenager.
Yes.
Okay. So tell us about that space, and how do we get that 14-year-old, that 13-year-old, that 15-year-old, that 16-year-old mindset involved to become part of your space thinking, so they can grow up to be the happy, joyous, free that you are today?
Yes. So I would say just be your own advocate. And I would say pay attention to your body and really listen and, notice how things make you feel. So if hanging out with this group of people, if it doesn't make you feel good and you think that they're negative or they have bad behavior or just something just doesn't feel right in your gut feeling and you can't explain it, then just, do things that make you feel good.
Let me ask you to pause for a second right there, because I really want that 14-year-old, 13-year-old, 12-year-old
Yes.
to get that message. Okay.
Yes.
So because there is many of them that feel that way. They know that they're running around with the wrong company.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that that company does not bring them any value or does not make them feel good, but they don't know how to detach themselves from that.
Mm-hmm.
How do they do that? How do they begin to build that self-confidence to just walk away?
It comes with self-esteem and knowing, and I think when you love yourself to the point where you realize you don't want to people please and you're not trying to fix and help and save people, and you actually want to put yourself first and your mental well-being first, and you know what you deserve, you don't make excuses. And I also think with maturity and time, it changes your perspective, because I remember when I was a teenager and, my mind has grown in 8 years, of course, but I think just when you just start practicing self-love, start doing things that make you feel good, because the more that you start feeling good, you're like, oh, this is my new normal. So then when something, that doesn't feel good comes around, you'll be able to immediately pinpoint it. And you're like, oh, this is the bad feeling. Let's get rid of that. Whatever it is, if it's, a negative friend or someone who's just not healthy for you, a toxic relationship, boyfriend, whatever it is. So immediately, oh, that's what doesn't feel good to me. And this is what does feel good. So I'm going to keep on, focusing on the good.
You also have said something in some of the other interviews that you were that one person, you were that one teenager that everybody went to. That you would go out and seek out the wounded friend and help them out and take them to the store and buy them whatever to make them feel better. But the reality, and you still do that, but you do it in a different way now, because now you do it from the perspective. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's important for us to understand that we first need to take care of ourselves, and we need to be well, because when we are given from a full cup, okay, and we're given the best version of ourselves, we have more clarity and we're able to give more and help more. And so how did you get to that point? Where was it that changed, that you realized that you didn't need to heal someone else, but you needed to heal Meghan first?
Oh my gosh. I would honestly say that moment for me happened when I was a junior in high school, and I had just gotten out of a toxic relationship. And I was in therapy, and my therapist, I told her about the relationship, and, she kept on saying, well, Meghan, why would you date someone that you went into the relationship wanting to fix them? What? Yeah. So she kept on, and that honestly, that blew my mind, because I realized in that moment, I'm an empath. I love helping and fixing people, but to go into a romantic relationship with, the mindset of I'm going to fix and change this person and morph them into who I want them to be, that's not what love is. That's not what love is. That's not a relationship. You will end up exhausted, burned out, and in a bad place. So just that moment. And then I did a lot of inner child work where I just, I realized why I am the way I am. And she also asked me, Meghan, when you were younger, how did you receive attention? And I said, well, I got attention when I succeeded, when I got a good grade on my test, when I was the mature one, when I was a leader. So my parents rewarded my positive achievements. So I got attention. So to me, I know the way to get attention or to, you know, have people like me or anything. It's like, it's just crazy, you know, the inner workings of, okay, so wait, that's why I dated that person. You know, that's why I was that person in high school that everyone, you know, wanted to come to. And I always loved giving advice, and I still do. I mean, it is literally just who I am as a person, but just realizing, you know, why I do it and what the real, you know, deeper meaning is. And also, you know, just really just setting boundaries with people and knowing that, you know, the more that you do fill up your own cup and you exercise and you know, you just take care of yourself, the more positive choices you're going to make, because everything affects everything in all areas of your life. So when you get enough sleep and you wake up and you have your morning routine and you just are in a positive place, you're going to want to continue the positive choices. So it's important, you know, to be aware of, you know, why am I the way that I am, and how do I show up in my life, and how did my upbringing affect me? And, you know, now, I mean, I still am this person because it is who I am and I love it, but also just realizing when I need to set a boundary with someone, you know, and when I need to like cool my jets, and I don't need to fix and save everyone, and now I get paid for it. So, you know, now it's more of a healthy thing. So just being aware.
And that's a perfect gateway to where are you at today? What are you doing today?
So today I am currently working on my 4th book during this quarantine. I am working with a ghostwriter and an editor, and then I'm going to be pitching it to publishers. And this is my first book where I'm going to be pitching it, cross my fingers, to a publishing house. So I'm really, really excited. I also have been doing virtual one-on-one sessions with teenagers over Zoom, because with the current times, you know, unfortunately, a lot of teenagers, their graduations have stopped, their proms have stopped, and a lot of them are feeling really anxious. And a lot of people, not just teenagers, but young adults too, of, you know, oh my gosh, my college classes, you know, just so many things are just shifting. And it's the fear of the unknown, the fear of change, the fear of, I can't control this. And so I've been really, you know, my heart goes out to all the teenagers who, you know, they worked for 4 straight years really hard, and to have, you know, all the, it's really hard. It breaks my heart. So I've been working on the book, the one-on-one sessions on Zoom. And then I also have my own podcast, Reaching New Heights, which is just basically, you know, and everything that I do, I always bring it back to what I wish was taught in my high school, just, you know, the mental health, the real life stuff, and even how to like pay taxes, because I had to ask my parents how to do that, how to write a check. Like I was never taught how to do that. And, you know, just really, you know, I really want to just give teenagers, that's why I have the podcast, that's why I speak at schools and have my books. I want to give teenagers for free the tips. If they're in school and they feel like, you know what, I want to be a baker, I want to be a chef, I want to be a dancer, but I don't know how to do it. Like, what are the actual steps on how to become a professional athlete, or whatever they want to do? I want to make it very easy. And here's step 1, step 2, because, you know, they don't really talk about that in high school. They don't really like support every single student in what they are really good at. So I want to just give that.
Yeah, actually, absolutely. Education is for the masses. It's not, not individualized. And, you know, my son had a revelation to me very early on. He was in the 8th grade, and one day I picked him up from school, and he's bawling, crying. I mean, just bawling, crying. And I said, "What's wrong?" "I hate school. I hate my teachers."
Yeah.
And I remember like it was yesterday. I pulled over to the side. I said, "Tell me why." "Well, the classrooms are boring. They're dark. They're not exciting.
Right.
The teachers are angry. They don't teach you anything. They give you a lesson and they want you to complete it by the end of the day. And you have no, by the end of the class, which is 45 minutes, and you have no inputs. I cannot participate in my own education. I have to follow a system that I don't like or I don't believe in. And I remember listening to him and I said, what would you like to do? He said, well, I think I want to go to a boarding school. Okay.
Wow.
I travel a lot. So I said, okay, let's look at those options. So we looked at some options. And again, right before we made that choice, his anxiety kicked in. And he got scared, and he decided that he didn't want to do that. So then I said, well, let's look at some private school systems. We looked at some private school systems. We toured a couple of campuses, and then those personal insecurities started kicking in. I'm too overweight. I don't fit in. Da da da. I said, Hallie, what would you like to do? He says, will you consider me? Will you consider if I decide that I want to go into a homeschool system? I said, absolutely, but it would have to be supported by a tutor because I travel a lot and I want somebody available to be able to tutor you. So he says, yes, deal. So I enroll him through a homeschool program through Oxford University. Okay. And it was the best decision I ever made. Because he was able to think for himself. He got up every morning like he went to regular school, and he participated in his education. He is on the dean's roll as a freshman. He has a 3.8 grade average. He's an incredible human being. And you're right. I mean, but he's also traveled with me. He was able to participate in some of my board meetings. He was able to see part of the world that most kids don't get to see at that age because they're confined to a system that is outdated and that doesn't do anything to enhance their minds, their thinking, their vision, their dreams, their goal, their passions. And what we need to do, we need to create a system that stimulates all those things in a child. That gives them the ability to choose what they want out of life.
Yes.
I'm going to get out of my soapbox, but I also wanted to touch on something else. You know, you talked about the times that we're living today and how this have affected many of us. And, you know, I think it is a moment where we need to pause and really be more compassionate to those teenagers, to those high schoolers, to those college graduates. You know, they look forward to moments like this. They look forward to the prom. They look forward to the graduation. They look forward to being on campus with their friends. I mean, I had that conversation with my son on Saturday. You know, he was sad and depressed, and I opted to preach and teach instead of listen. What he was looking for was compassion. He was not looking for a sermon. He was not looking for a solution. He was looking for a connection.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think we need to be vigilant right now and be attentive to the needs of others overall, but primarily those that we overlook, and it's typically our children.
It's so true.
So anyway, Meghan, where can people find you?
So people can find me so I have my website. It is Meghan, MEGAN, Gallagher, GALLAGHER.com. And then that Meghan W. Gallagher, that's my Instagram handle. And that's my Twitter handle. I also have LinkedIn, and I have Facebook personal and business. I have a YouTube channel. And it's really helpful. I have the same profile picture on every single one of my channels. So it's very easy to find me. And I also have my TED Talk on my website, meghanwgallagher.com. I have my books there. I have my blog where I blog about mental health, and I blog once a week. And then I also have my pricing, contact info, if anyone wants me to speak at their middle school or high school. I also have, that's just it. I'm literally everywhere. I have TikTok, I have everything.
Meghan, this is coming clean. Is there anything you want to come clean about?
Oh gosh, I want to come clean with the fact that I still, at 24, I have anxious thoughts, and I want to come clean with the fact that even though, you know, I am the teen anxiety whisperer, or I am the teen anxiety expert, I want people to know that I struggle with anxiety on a daily basis. And a lot of people wouldn't know it by looking at me, but it's something that I deal with in my own way, and I cope with in my own way. And I think, yeah, I'm not a perfect person. My life is far from perfect, but I'm really just doing what, you know, my passion is. And I just want teenagers to know that I am not perfect, and I'm just a human being who really, you know, I love what I do, but I struggle with anxious thoughts all the time. And I struggle with overthinking and assuming, and like, I struggle with all of it, but I just kind of laugh at it and just have a lighthearted way of thinking about it. And also, I will come clean about another thing. If anyone listening or watching, if any of you guys ever see a girl with brown hair who is like doing like dancing in a grocery store aisle, it's probably me, because I'm not kidding. Every time I can't help it. Like I've been a dancer my whole life, and I'm just like a goofy person. So if anyone ever, you know, just come up and say hi to me. But I also, if you're like, why is someone, you know, doing like twirling it's probably me.
Meghan W. Gallagher, speaker, yes. TEDx talk, author, and teenage whisper. Thank you so much for being on Coming Clean podcast.
Thank you so much, Peter, for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today on another episode of the Coming Clean podcast. Make sure to join Peter and his next guest on a brand new episode as we continue changing and impacting lives across the world. Share this episode with a friend, follow, subscribe, and leave a review.
Boy, I had to get it fast. Get a dash in my position, you would never last. Real talk, I had to get